Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters and guest Kerry. Thank you for waiting outside. Lindsay with an A. Back in, dare I say it, the 70s, I was a very dreamy 16-year-old living way up in the back of Christchurch. And I hit the school holidays and I needed a job. Just like people need to do something, and I needed money. So along came my Uncle Lindsay. Now my family are very quiet. My Uncle Lindsay is not. My Uncle Lindsay exudes what I now know as positive energy. Things weren't just good, they were super good. He drove like other people, but just a lot faster and a lot noisier in his old post office van. Everyone had a nickname, even if they didn't. I became everything. I think Lockers was what he... And it used to come the think, "Oh, Lockers!" Only person who's ever called me that. That's what it was. Now, my uncle, he ran a roofing business. Now, a roofing is when you take people with rusty old roofs and you replace that. Now, roofing is hard work. And I got a job working with my Uncle Lindsay on the roofs. So there I was, going from inside PlayStation 10 to going and working on the roofs. Now, this is hard work because you have ladders. Health and safety was like, I don't know, a two-piece band somewhere. It didn't exist in our place because we'd walk up the ladder with tiles in there, and walk up the ladder, as you do. Yeah? And if you were lucky, it wasn't a two-storey building because that would have really hurt. But it was hard work. You arrived really early when it was dark and you left really late when it was dark. And in between, you got absolutely knackered, I can tell you that. I remember after my first days of hammering is that I just found my arm had been broken. Now, this speech is about mentoring. And I looked here for the definition of mentoring. And a mentor takes a personal interest in and helps an inexperienced person, a mentee. Serves as a role model, coach, and confidant. Offers knowledge, insight, perspective, and wisdom used to the mentee. Helps someone become successful and learns new skills themselves. And it didn't take me long to realise that's exactly what was happening on the roofs, because everywhere I go, my Uncle Lindsay, he observed what I was doing. And he gave me the help that I needed to do what I needed to do. For example, he did say to me about how to nail things in. And I still remember how to hammer a nail in. And the way you use your arm is actually quite important. He also gave me domino skills, which I mean, he didn't start with something that was too advanced, didn't need to know. Started with this and started with that. He also gave me good personal direction and always with a bit of sense of humour. But what were the main things that I actually learned? What were the actual things I learned from my Uncle Lindsay? Well, number one, be positive even if you're not. Which I thought was good. You can't sit there and let stuff grind away at you. He was always positive. He loved listening to the Bee Gees and loud. Yeah. My family didn't listen to the Bee Gees and didn't listen to anything loud. My Uncle Lindsay did both of those things. Be busy even when you're not. If you're talking to a client and you go and see a client, always leave as though you've got something that's really pulling you out the door. You're busy, your time is important. They've got to catch you to get you. We worked on these jobs, and I remember we went way at the back of Christchurch somewhere, way out in the country, and they invited us for lunch, and he said, remember, leave early. If someone invites you lunch in their place, you're doing their roof, leave early, because you're busy. Yeah? That's the way it goes, and always sets a great example. And the last thing he told me was, splice your hard work with your easy work. Because when I first started lifting tiles up onto a roof, I just think, what, whole row of tiles? Big roof? Well, after by about 10:30, my legs just about dropped off, my arms, I was absolutely knackered. And he said, look, what you do, a couple of things. He said, if you've got any cutting stuff to do, you go up there, do a bit of cutting, come down, do some sketches. Pick some tiles up, come down. And I still use that principle today. It makes me seem a lot more youthful. I used to do surveying. And the other thing he told me is sit down whenever you can. Contrary to the normal office thing, is that when you're surveying, when you're on your feet all the time, you sit down if you've got to make a phone call. You sit down if you've got to do a sketch. And those things have really been helpful in a real practical way. So why are mentors so good? They are real. You see, a mentor sets an example. My uncle has an amazing work ethic. He works hard, but he would never ask you to do anything that he wouldn't do himself or hasn't done himself. Yeah? And so you saw it in real life. People can write a book about anything at all. But when you're there with the person, you see them doing it themselves, and you see that they've done it themselves, it is so much more convincing, compelling, motivating, for sure. Well, my Uncle Lindsay, after working in Christchurch, New Zealand was too small for him. He moved to California. First to San Diego, then up to Sacramento. He started a firm called Calpac Roofing, and he had a big team, sort of 40, 50 people working in California then. He was always known for working really hard and setting a great example. In 2009, he had 3 aneurysms and a stroke. And that knocked him back a bit. He's still alive, and I'm going to send him a recording of this speech. He is in a special place in Northern California, perfectly communicative, and he has still got his sense of humour. He came over a while ago. I was sitting at the lights, and there I was dreaming away, and this voice said next to me, "It ain't going to get any greener." So I would like to, one thing I have struck though is how little we sometimes get to thank our mentors and how important they are to us. So thank you, Uncle Lindsay.
Thank you for that, Lachlan. And we now have a minute for our evaluation, so timer, if you could please time a minute. And can somebody